You know why you're taller than me in the videos? Because you wear the shoes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I just realized that.
What does that have to do with me sitting, though? If the legs are...
Your legs are elevated, right? Or oh wait, that doesn't make any sense. That was really dumb of me.
Yeah, it's okay.
Welcome to the Nice Dude After Show. This is for History of the World Part 1. As you can see, we're wearing different outfits because we're recording this another time. There's some technical difficulties, so we couldn't record it right afterwards.
Yeah, we're about to shoot our next reaction, which is kind of cool. I'm not going to spoil it yet, but... By the way, are we going to include what you just said?
Yeah, why
okay,
not?
cool. Because you segued into it really fast, so I'm like, I'm not going to be able to edit that. Otherwise, just know that.
I like to throw, curveballs.
Yeah, you keep me on my toes.
Well, yeah, so, it's funny with this one. It just a little after show phrase of peek behind the curtain.
Uh-huh.
While we were watching this, I wasn't immediately as, pulled in by it. Mm-hmm. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Blazing Saddles, where it took me a second to get on this movie's wavelength, but once I got it, it was laugh out loud funny. If you watch the reaction, I'm laughing the entire time, but I remember internally it was okay, this is a little strange structure because it's a lot of vignettes.
Yeah, which is kind of the nature. It almost has kind of that Monty Python and the Holy Grail kind of structure to it.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. Yes,
yeah. And I had a lot of fun.
I did too.
I think it is.
Oh my god, dude, your sweater has stains on it.
What the hell happened here?
That's crazy.
What the hell happened? It comes off pretty easily. Did I lean on something or something?
I don't know. It's not the futon.
But it's flying right off.
It's okay.
That's weird as hell. I don't know if you can see that at all. Anyway.
I got you, man.
What was I saying?
You said you liked it. It's not that I didn't hate it. I hated it. I really loved it. I enjoyed myself a lot.
But I agree, though. It is my least favorite out of all of them, but I still really enjoyed it,
100%. I think it's, it's hard to follow. I mean, when did this movie come out in its chronology? Did it come out before Young Frankenstein, after Robin Hood Men in Tights? Where did that come out?
It came out before Robin Hood Men in Tights. I know that because they do a reference to it in Robin Hood Men in Tights.
That's right.
They say it's good to be king.
His filmography is really good, right? I mean, he has a lot of there's a few of the movies that are just considered some of the greatest comedies of all time.
Yeah.
So not everyone is gonna hit for us in that way. But, I mean, the Rome stuff when he gets to, Mel Brooks doing, stand-up comedy is really good when they get high off that joint.
Yeah, that was funny.
I remember that moment was the moment where I was, fully locked in. Because everything after that, it was just, easy going for me. But when the moment where, they were getting high and the smoke was stopping the guards and everything, I was like, okay, this is it. This is what we're here for.
Yeah, when they find the plant while they're escaping them.
Intricate set pieces for very dumb jokes. That's what I really like.
That's the best. Yeah, that's the best stuff. I remember. I think that's the one we always cite whenever it comes to over the top, set designs for really dumb jokes. Is probably Airplane and Scary Movie. Those are the go-tos.
Oh yeah. Oh no, 1,000%. Yeah.
And we don't have to fully repeat what we already talked about in our Airplane podcast. You can go check that out if you want to. But this one has that too, and I think we'll always at least mildly enjoy these types of movies.
Has what?
This the over-the-top nature of it.
Okay.
The over-the-top set pieces for stupid humor,
Got it.
And but it's kind of crazy though, this kind of Mel Brooks journey we went on, because I remember we put on Spaceballs. At least I didn't really think it through when we put on Spaceballs that this is a Mel Brooks movie we're getting into. I just thought, it's a spoof of Star Wars.
Yeah, I just knew Mel Brooks was a person that existed that made these movies, but now I feel I was saying this off camera to you, where I'm Nice Dude feels like the house that Mel Brooks built.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our audience came from those videos, the Blazing Saddles, the Spaceballs, and stuff like that. And obviously movies that are kind of distant cousins of that, Holy Grail, Naked Gun.
Yeah.
And so our channel's audience was built off of that kind of style, because I think you and I also just love watching these movies off camera. And so when we started watching them on camera, I feel people really were loving how we were getting the jokes, which are some of the best comments that we get. I was I love that you guys got it,
Yeah, well, and it's fun to get it, too. I remember when we first put on Monty Python and Holy Grail, I was laughing my ass off, because it was such a unique brand of humor that I haven't experienced before in a movie.
Yeah, and I want to like tie back to this movie for a
Yeah.
second. The Inquisition music number,
So good.
so
Fucking
good.
awesome.
Right?
I still think about that because it's probably been like a good couple days since we last shot.
Yeah.
Like a week or so.
And yeah, no, 100%. And I'm like actually right now as we're recording this, I'm in the process of editing that video. So when this video comes out, the timeline's really weird.
Yeah. It's okay. People are adjusted to multiverses and stuff nowadays.
100%. Yeah. And the Inquisition music number, like when it hit and I saw what he was doing, I was like, oh my God, there's no one better at, like I said, creating an intricate set piece off a very dumb joke, but like committing so hard. Whereas I remember Young Frankenstein, the sets looked like the 1930s Frankenstein movie.
Yeah.
This musical number is shot like a musical. It feels very Broadway, like you said in your reaction video. Like, it's not half-assed. It's not like just for one joke.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially, like, it got ridiculous when they're all jumping in the pool and doing that whole number. And, like, how it does I called it the Austin Powers effect, but I know this one came first. But when they play it backwards where they're coming out of the water...
I know, yeah.
But still perfectly dry. It's an awesome effect.
A movie that I'd highly recommend to people that came out a few years ago that does this is Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
I forgot about that movie. We reviewed that movie a while ago.
I rewatched it on a plane a few months ago.
Okay.
And I hadn't seen it since 2020 when it came out. And it was supposed to come out in theaters, and I always think about that. I'm like, man, we don't get that many comedies in theaters that much. And I'm like, this would have been an amazing theater movie, and it got pushed to streamers, and I feel like it got kind of forgotten. But there's this big musical number that is doing the same thing that this kind of movie is doing, which is like, all right, so if we're going to do this bit, we're going to do it. We're going to have a bunch of dancers. We're going to have like an original song. We're going to have a set that looks luscious and gorgeous.
Yeah, I remember that. Barb and Star was like a pretty movie.
Yeah, because the thing that I think you and I love Mel Brooks for is that he's a filmmaker. He's a comedian first, right? But he's a filmmaker.
Oh yeah, and I really felt that, I think, probably during Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein is his like big auteur swing in a weird way, where it's just like, I'm gonna make a Frankenstein movie.
But Blazing Saddles is also like a really well-made movie too, from like a filmmaking standpoint. I remember
100%. It's funny also that when Men in Tights came out, it was obviously a ripoff of like the 1930s Robin Hood and also like the Kevin Costner one.
Yeah, mostly it was a parody of that one. Yeah,
right. And what I've seen Prince of Thieves, the Kevin Costner one, and I see Men in Tights, and I'm like, Men in Tights is a better movie. Aside from it being the parody, I'm like, this is like a really well-made movie, a great Robin Hood story.
Yeah, it's more adventurous and fun to watch.
That's the thing. Also, like, it's those movies are like aside from Spaceballs, all these movies are like stand on their own really well.
Oh yeah, I know. That's the thing. Like, Blazing Saddles is arguably his best movie. I'm sure people can have differing opinions, but I'm sure Blazing Saddles is looked at as, from what I hear at least, his best movie. You know? Yeah,
it's usually, a lot of people say it's a tie between like Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. Yeah. I hear Young Frankenstein as the critic favorite.
Sure. I think, I go back and forth, to be honest, between what my favorites are. I remember our last attempt to shoot after the reaction when we were first doing it, I asked you to rank them, and I think at the time I gave it did I give it to Young Frankenstein?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm kind of torn now. Like, I actually, once I think about Blazing Saddles,
have you rewatched them?
I've watched clips. I haven't rewatched it in full.
Because I'm the same way. I haven't rewatched them in full, but in terms of clips, I've rewatched more of Young Frankenstein, and I feel like in my head I'm drawn more to that movie now.
Okay.
Because of the fact that it's pretty much a Frankenstein movie.
Yep.
Like it's and it's funny, right? It has some laugh out loud moments, but it takes its themes very seriously. The whole arc of like Frankenstein accepting who he is and his name is very real.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I love about it. I mean, the whole story behind it is Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks came together, and Gene Wilder was like, I'm going to go write an actual Frankenstein movie, and Mel Brooks brought it into the jokes. Now, that's a very simplified version of the story, but Gene Wilder was like, if we take this as serious as possible, it's going to get funnier and funnier.
Sure.
Which is, History of the World is probably his most like, at least from the movies we've seen. We haven't seen all his movies, obviously. I know there's high anxiety and a lot of stuff. But when I look at all like the filmography that we have seen, History of the World seems like the most broad comedy. Yeah,
it's the most... Yeah, like you said, it has the least storyline to it and least themes involved. I think...
From what I remember, Spaceballs is kind of like that too.
Yeah. Spaceballs is very much like that. I think with History of the World, From what I heard, that like once since we watched it, I did a little research. The title was even supposed to feel like those encyclopedias that people used to have back in the day.
It totally makes sense. And it was like, if you want to see like what movie this is doing a takeoff of, it's like back in the day, there used to be these biblical epics, right? The 10 Commandments and stuff like that. Which
these 15 Commandments.
Oh! An amazing joke.
It's so funny, dude.
I'm so glad I didn't know it because, like, again, it's been a few days since we shot it. I looked it up, and it's a very iconic scene. It gets so many views on YouTube. But, like, back in the day, especially probably the movies that Mel Brooks grew up watching, they used to make a lot of these, like, really huge epics, right?
Yeah.
Hollywood has definitely gone away from that now. But I think that's what this movie's trying to do a takeoff on, of just, like, let's do our epic, but call it History of the World Part 1, and it'll feel like vignettes. Yeah,
we might have said this already in the reaction, but I just fucking love that it's called History of the World Part 1, and they for a while never made a second part to it.
You said this exact same thing. At
just,
first you just said you're like, I love how they just made no sequel. I'm like, nah, there's a Hulu show now.
Since that, but it's still at the time though, it wasn't ever intended to have a sequel, right?
Yeah.
Which I still think is so funny.
It works in both ways. One is because it's supposed to be that encyclopedia feel.
Exactly.
And two is it's the joke is like, we're not going to make a sequel.
Yeah. Are you planning to check out the Hulu show?
Yeah, because, you know, the people behind it I really enjoy. It's a lot of comedy actors that I like, but also it's created by Nick Kroll, who I love. Mm-hmm. Have you seen any of the Kroll show? Mm-mm. Oh, it's a great, sketch comedy type show, and he does all these, like, crazy characters. But, like, Nick Kroll, I think, is, like, one of my favorite, like, comedic minds out there.
Yeah.
I think he's so talented, I feel like people don't mention him a lot, but I love him. His stand-up special on Netflix is great. So because of that, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah. I mean, like, I remember going on the Wikipedia page for it, and I remember looking at the cast list just out of curiosity, and it's like it's just everyone's in like at least a scene.
But I kind of love that about it, because I think like back in the day, at least in the Judd Apatow era of comedies, when the comedies used to come out in theaters, which I think the Judd Apatow era is probably the last era where that used to happen, is Judd Apatow and Seth Rogen, what they did in a lot of their comedies is like stack every funny person in that movie.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like, it was amazing because it's like, if you have a good premise and a good story for your movie, if you put as many funny people in it, it's good. It's going to come alive, right? So that's what excites me about the show is just like, oh, they're doing the thing that you used to do for movies.
And it's a great love letter kind of to Mel Brooks, where I can imagine being pitched like, hey, do you want to be in History of the World Part 2? We're going to be doing it more Mel Brooks, and Mel Brooks is involved in it. I'm sure a ton of those comedians were like, fuck yeah, I'm going to do it.
Nick Kroll was saying that, like, yeah, they would have calls and everything, and obviously Mel Brooks was very excited that they were doing it, but he said that, like, the thing that he didn't expect is that Mel Brooks would call in and pitch jokes.
Yeah.
Like, he was a writer.
That's what I'm saying.
He said, like, Mel Brooks wasn't just executive, but, like, he would call and just be like, try this one, like, try to pitch jokes, because he was excited, and he said that, like, I remember Conan said something about Mel Brooks that resonated well with me, which was like, you see these certain like comedians, like Carl Reiner passed away recently, but he lived up to like 94 or something like that.
Wow, yeah.
Mel Brooks is in his 90s, right? And he said that there's some people that are just like, you can tell their enthusiasm for comedy. They've kept it alive, and that's probably one of the reasons they've like stayed healthy, and they stayed that because like they like being around people that are funny to this age. Like Mel Brooks still loves people just coming over his place.
Yeah, he likes laughing.
Yeah,
pretty much, you know.
And you know, as you get older, naturally, like you become more cynical. You kind of lose that part of yourself. But Mel Brooks shows up in the trailer, and he's just as energetic as he was.
Well, yeah, and especially like, you know, when you're successful too, the joy is going to be kind of. Because I think the pressure can make the joy leave eventually, right? It's easy to get bitter over that sort of thing. It's easy to kind of, you know, just look at it as a business standpoint and just be in work mode all the time because you have this high bar now. But yeah, I remember I came across Mel Brooks' book, you know, at a Barnes & Noble. Have you seen the cover of it?
No.
He looks so happy. I forget the title of it, but it's him like this. And I'm like, I want to read it because I'm like, I want to know how he makes that stuff.
One of my favorite things is about like 10 years ago, he got inducted into the Hollywood Walk of Fame. No, not Walk of Fame. Like he got inducted into the, like right outside the Chinese theater.
Where you had to put his hands
on the tiles.
I know what you're going to get at, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying for the audience.
Yeah.
Everyone puts their hands. Some people put their shoes. You put your hands and shoes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And all he asked to get, Mel Brooks got inducted into it. And so he puts his hands, and he was on Conan telling the story. He was like, I want to do something special and everything. He added like a prosthetic like finger to his hand to where it's like an extra finger on one of them. So if you go to Hollywood and you go Hollywood Boulevard and go outside the Chinese Theater and find Mel Brooks' thing, he has like an extra finger on his hand.
It's so good. It's so simple but so perfect for him.
Which this guy, the reason I bring it up is like he's a type of guy that you can just tell loves a good joke.
Oh yeah,
is obsessed with like if it's funny, I'm going to be obsessive about it. I'm going to put all the work I have into it because it's a good joke.
If it's going to make people laugh, I will I'll stick my neck out to make it happen. The first thing I ever saw of Mel Brooks was probably all the way back to when I was like baby toddler territory. Is when he was in Little Rascals.
Where his place is so straight.
Yeah, I know. He's so not goofy in it, but like, it's such a perfect scene for him.
It's so weird though. I don't get it. And like why? Like there's not a single joke. He doesn't.
Because it's Little Rascals. He's like, of course I'm going to be in a Little Rascals movie.
Which is the great thing about it, that he just wanted to be in a Little Rascals movie because he didn't have to do that.
When Spanky and Simey were like in their little disguises, they had these big beards on. They go into the bank, and he's like, "Yeah, what is your account number?" And then Spanky's like, 7. He's like, 7? 7? Like, so serious. And then
like almost like you've never seen Mel Brooks be menacing.
Yeah. And Froggy is like underneath the trench coat on his shoulders. He's like, try 8.
So Little Rascals is a movie that you quote to me all the time.
I fucking love Little Rascals.
Yeah,
I don't care.
We should do that on the podcast sometime.
Sure. Or maybe we can stream ourselves watching it or something, you know?
Hell yeah. That'd be a great, like, we do Discord streams, by the way, especially, like, if we have a Discord, but if you are a $5 patron, you get access to our, like, once a month movie hangouts, where we do movie watch-alongs with our Discord members.
Yeah. So if you ever want to hop on board, we'd love if you stop by. Are you good to wrap up?
I'm good to wrap up.
Hell yeah, man.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for supporting this channel. We really appreciate it, as well to our patrons. Thank you for supporting us. Stay nice, dudes.